Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and this is the Tonight Show podcast coming to you on Thursday, the 18th of May, a day earlier than planned. That is due because I am not going to be around tomorrow to film the show. So, good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday evening. Um, I'm off for the weekend now, but it does mean that the news is not off for the weekend because we have plenty of news to digest tonight on the show. I'm joined by my co-host and Labour Party supporter Zach Chambers to round up all the latest news from the past week. Hello, Zach.
Hello, Charlie. Hello.
Right, we're going to start off now with the news. We're actually going to touch, firstly, on some news tonight from motor racing and also a little bit of news from Italy as well. Unfortunately, there's been some horrible flooding over there, which has caused the cancellation of this weekend's Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, which would have been the latest round of the Formula One World Championship. As well at the end of the circuit. Now, Formula One did release a statement to say that the race would not be going ahead due to the intense weather, due to heavy flooding. Obviously, emergency services are helping recover people, recover debris from the flooding, and also people have lost their homes. There was also an emergency effort underway to get Italy back to normal. Zach, what do you make to this horrible weather event and also Formula One's statement regarding the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix this weekend?
Yeah, it's a shame that we're not going to see F1 this weekend, rather unfortunately. But it is under unfortunate but necessary circumstances that the race is not going ahead. And I have to say, first of all, it's the right decision not to go ahead with the race because of the flooding. If you look at the track, the pictures that we got yesterday, that I saw, shows that the track itself is fine, but everything else is not fine. You may see the paddock, the support race paddock as well, especially in the TV compounds, completely flooded. No, you couldn't barely move any equipment. It's all underwater basically. The roads surrounding it as well were shut. They were flooded. There was nowhere to go. I mean, look at that. That is simply unsustainable to work in those conditions. Everything's underwater. It's a heap load of rain. You can barely move around a bit. If it was the Emilia Margaux boat race, then that would be absolutely fine. But this is the Emilia Margaux Formula One race, and Formula One don't race on rivers. That's the surfing. But yeah, that is the state of the paddock. What's left of it is an empty hellhole now, basically, and it probably has dried down a little bit, but the water has come down quite a lot. But it's still, from what I've read as well, is that the compound, the electrical equipment's all been damaged, so they wouldn't be able to get connection up and everything like that if needed to be, in order to, broadcast, get connections, get data, get services. As well, and that's the scene there, and it's not just the scene at the track, by the way. It's seen all over the Emilia Margaux region, where there has been torrential downpours, heavy rain, flooding. People have been evacuated from their homes. Under the circumstances, it just wouldn't be appropriate for a race to go ahead with the extreme weather. As well, the death toll has reached 13 in these floods, because there's been thousands of people who've had evacuated. As well, there's just devastating footage. The amount of flooding that has been in the area is really, really bad. As well, and all the efforts now there to support the efforts of those that have been affected by the flooding in the area. There's been drivers that have been teams promoting donations, and so just to help the community and sort of help in the aftermath as well. I know Ferrari has offered is going to donate €1 million to the agency, the Emilia Margaux Regents Agency for territorial safety and civil protection, to sort of help with the flooding efforts as well. And obviously, this would have been Ferrari's home Grand Prix, I should point out, by the way, as well, because it's a nice donation as well. Early today, the water levels dropped, but it was still a heavy amount of water going in, so it would have been unsustainable as well. And yeah, so it's this obviously, like I said, it's really disappointing this race to go ahead. But fair play to the FIA for making a decision early, making a decision quick. I wouldn't want to see in a situation where they left it towards the last minute and they didn't do anything, and then not get racing before at all. They've had been guilty of that in the past, but this time around they've got the decision correctly. They got the decision spot on. They're acted swiftly. With all agreements with the teams as well. If they didn't cancel the race in the first place, I wouldn't have thought it would have been able to go ahead anyway because of all the damage that it's done. But fair play to everyone who's donated and helped the region. And want to shout out as well Yuki Tsunoda, who today was caught and photographed helping the locals in one of the flooded areas as well. I mean, that's brilliant. That is absolute dedication from the Japanese Formula One driver. That is, it's just such a nice gesture, a nice passionate guy who's really trying to help out there as well. And yeah, it shows what decent guy he's been. And yeah, it's just lovely to see everyone out there in the community and keeping safe as well. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, we can confirm from the statement from Formula One reads, the Formula One community wants to send its thoughts to the people and communities affected by the recent events in the Emilia-Romagna region. We also pay the tributes to the work of emergency services are doing everything to help those in need. Following discussions between Formula One, the president of the FIA, the competent authorities, including the relevant ministers, the president of the Automobile Club of Italy, the president of the Emilia-Romagna region, mayor of the city, and also the promoters, it's taken the decision not to proceed with this weekend's Grand Prix weekend in Imola. Decision has been taken because it's not possible to hold the safety of our fans, the team's personnel, and the right responsible things given by the town, cities, and region. It would not be right to put further pressure on the local authorities and emergency services at this difficult time. Statement there from Formula One regarding the cancellation of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. There will still be motor racing action on this weekend. If you are a Formula One fan, and obviously you did want to see the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, there is still racing on Sunday with the British Touring Car Championship heading to Snetterton this weekend. So I'm sure a lot of F1 fans will tune into that. They might also potentially tune in to Indy 500 qualifying, I believe. I think that's on this weekend, I think, from what I understand. Saturday, yes. We're going to come on to that a bit later on, actually, and talk about the Indy 500. We'll preview the grid on next week's show for the 500 on Sunday next week. But moving on now to the Tonight Show podcast. And I want to talk about the proper stuff now. Political news. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about this week's Commons business now. The Commons Chamber business in the House of Commons. Now, obviously this week we had Deputy Prime Minister's questions. We didn't see the top two heavyweights there, Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister, and Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer. It was Oliver Dowden and Angela Rayner facing off at the dispatch box, with two of them going head-to-head on lots of issues, the local elections being one of them, and also I think immigration might have got mentioned as well. I know there was been some news on immigration recently. Net migration could be reaching record levels across the country. I mean, Zach, what did you take away from Deputy PMQs the other day in the Commons?
Yeah, so I obviously it was Deputy PMQs because Prime Minister is out at the G7 summit this weekend in Japan, which is miles away. Even if it was miles, it wasn't on the local file anyway, then he'd still be doing something else. Yeah, I must admit that Deputy PMQs yesterday did not set the standard right in terms of actual questioning and the reputation of the House of Commons, because I must admit, from the first bits of exchanges, it was an absolute cringe fest full of I don't know, just jokes, slogans, stuff that nobody get. It was a bit of what I'd say the Punch and Judy politics of Prime Minister's questions, or Deputy Prime Minister question in this instance as well. Yeah, I'll be honest, it wasn't a good watch yesterday. The first bits was bad. The second lot of questions were better, but overall it was pretty dreadful to watch. Quite frankly, from all sides involved. Oliver Dowding doing the cringe Phil and Holly, and then we had the sort of your party's this la 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 from Angela Rain as well. I know this is like appealing to the personalities of it all, but I'll just be totally honest. It wasn't that good much of a watch anyway, and it wasn't. It just some of the questions were a little bit long-winded. The jokes weren't that great. It wasn't a great. If you're an average viewer of pre-Incudes, then it just wasn't a great watch yesterday. It's not something that would go down in the memory books quite so well with the performance of everyone involved. I mean, it was cringe. It was a bit embarrassing at times. It was a bit of a pantomime, and it was very Punch and Judy, and it was just not very good at all. It's just there's just stuff going on that they really that you know in the world right now that feels more important than what the spectacle, the rubbish that we saw the other day. So yeah, it should all hopefully go back to normal next week, as well with Kira and Rishi. Normally, Deputy PMQs is a good watch sometimes, depending on who it is. And this is Oliver Dowding's first one in the slot as Deputy PM. But like I said, it was not an enjoyable watch at all. I don't think it really was quite an embarrassing and cringeworthy and rather disappointing sets of PMQs at all, from both sides, quite frankly, on that one.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I've watched the clip of it. It was an interesting session, and yeah, you could all say that. But what we want to cover now, I'm just going to go over some of the Commons business. It's going to be a new feature on my show every week, where we're going to be going over some of the sessions and all the papers in the Commons, what to expect over the next political week and over just some of the next few days. So this was some of the business this is some of the business for the 22nd of May we're going over. So we've got summary agenda, we've got oral questions, we've got prayers, we've got urgent questions on a ministerial statement. There's also strikes, up to 4 hours as a non-domestic bill going on. That's actually the business in the chamber. You can all find this on commonsbusiness.com, where you can basically go over all of the Commons business. Basically, you can give all the dates, all of what's happening in the Commons. You've got all the papers there that go over it all, the work of the Commons. So the latest obviously goes over, just in general, what we had today. Obviously, today you can review the HTML to get information. So today we had oral questions on business and trade, urgent questions, if any. There was a business question, backbench business. There was also also National Numeracy Day in Westminster Hall as well. There was lots of that as well on that one. As I said, the 22nd, there's a lot of session going on as well. No papers for selected day on the 23rd. And on the 24th, obviously, we do have PMQs on a Wednesday. I mean, Zach, what do you make, obviously, to the next lot of paper sessions coming up in Parliament?
Yeah, one of the things I want to keep an eye on, actually, to be fair, Charlie, as well, is on Monday, because I believe you remember the sort of anti-strike bill, or some of the oppositions like to call it as well. I think it's the minimum service sort of act that's designed to sort of provide a minimum service for those who go on strike, and then at least provide services running. So I believe that's getting it's coming back from the House of Lords, because they got amendments that were included within it that they've added, and that they've got to vote on in Parliament. So that, I believe, is coming back Monday as well, if I'm correct from what I remember as well. So that'll be on the order paper as well on the Monday, which is going to be, it probably will pass through as well. That's very likely to happen, and it's not surprising if it does happen. To be fair, in terms of what's going on as well. So yeah, I mean, let's look at on Monday. I believe actually, I don't think it's Monday actually, but what is happening Monday as well. So let's look at Monday. So on Monday, in the chamber, there is the Victims and Prisoners Bill second reading on the Monday. On the Tuesday, it's an opposition day debate as well. It's the cost of it's the SNP selected debates on the cost of living and the repeal of the Public Order Act 2023. That's an opposition day debate that they're going on, rather than being actual legislation itself. Obviously, next Wednesday is PMQs. Oh, actually, I've got the wrong one here. I've got the wrong one here. Actually, I've just remembered that's for last week. So let's go to the correct one. Actually, the 22nd. Oh, there we go. So legislation. Non-domestic rating bill Monday committee, and the legislation strikes minimum service level bill considering law amendments. That's basically the anti-strike bill. That's what the Labour claim to be. That provides minimum services for key sectors. That's going through in the chambers on Monday. Let's get to the right date. Let's get to the right date now. There we go. On the Tuesday next week. I did it for this week, my badly. It's an opposition day debate, 16th Lossy Day as well. On the Wednesday, as you know, it's PMQs as usual. And it's the retained EU law bill, consideration laws amendments. So you remember the controversy of the retained EU law as well, with the fact that the government are only repealing 900 of the 20,000 laws instead of all of it at once. So that's coming back from the laws on Monday. On Wednesday next week, and that includes some government amendments about repealing some of it only. And on the Thursday, obviously got business station, and they've got a backbench business of a debate on a motion of recognition of the Ukrainian Holodomor, and a backbench on attacking Islamophobia as well. On Thursday as well, and I think Friday is either House of Not Seasonal Parliament members' bills. So yeah, busy week next week, and watch out for Monday especially, because that's going to be, and Wednesday to be fair as well. There's going to be some very tense bills that's going to be discussed and potentially passed into law on Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah, as you saw there, I think it was the non-domestic crime verbal bill or something. There was and the strike one as well going in. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an appearance next week from Mark Harper, potentially the Transport Secretary, whether he will be in the chamber, potentially being asked questions. Because obviously we know that, from what I understand, the RMT are going to be out announcing more strikes. This is going to cause many problems coming up over the bank holiday weekend next week. I know there's a big music festival next weekend, which we're going to be talking about in a bit, called Creamfields. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Please comment down below what you have to say on it, because clearly it is one of those problems where you sort of don't know what's going to happen, and then everyone makes up. So that is all the latest news there from the Commons week. Now moving on to we're going to go over now to the Mayor of London race. Now, we know that Sadiq Khan is under a lot of pressure through ULEZ expansion, but this week we have had potentially more candidates announcing they are going to be running for the Mayor of London election next year. Now, obviously, this last election was taking place a couple of years ago, where Sadiq Khan beat Sean Bailey, who was a Conservative, to win the election. Obviously, Sean Bailey done a lot better than we all thought he did. However, though, he's under increasing pressure now with the ULEZ expansion, and it is an interesting one. Now, we don't know whether, obviously, these are all yet to declare to run. Actually, we do have a list of people that have declared to run, which we're going to show you now. But Zach, what do you make to the latest developments on the Mayor of London race?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. At the moment, the runner riders are certainly coming up and up and up and up. In terms of who wants to face Sadiq Khan in 2024 as well. It's a year away still, but there's a very eager sort of running list of conservative candidates who really want to put their hat in the name and try and defeat Sadiq Khan. I mean, Sadiq Khan's been famous, for really been in two terms in charge quite easily as well. The biggest challenge yet, obviously, I think, of his leadership has been so far the ULEZ zone expansion that is set to happen in August this year as well. The Conservatives want to take Mr. Khan to court because they find it illegal as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big race. So let's talk about the candidates so far. The Green Party so far put forward Zoe Garbett, as well. She used to be an NHS worker, as well, 35 years old, Hackney councillor, as well. She'll be focused on addressing inequality and injustice, and addressing the failings of the Met Police. Now, the Conservatives have got so far several candidates they've got put forward. Now, only one of them can be the official nomination for the Mayor of London. So this will be a little bit of a primary to decide which will happen. So Andrew Boff, the Deputy Chair of the London Assembly, has declared as well. He's been known for libertarian views as well. He's done it, tried to go for the candidacy every election as well since 2000. So brave on him. Dwayne Brooks as well. He used to be Lib Dem councillor, now Conservative councillor as well, which is interesting. Wants to make changes to Met Police, fix crime, racism, and education problem. Each do compulsory first aid and social media training. Susan Hall is the leader of the Conservatives in the London Assembly. She's declared. Samuel Kamsmoo. Now, he at the moment, I think he's the favourite for the Conservative nomination, one of the favourites. Former Special Advisor Boris Johnson as well. Being backed by Priti Patel, Grant Shapps, Steve Baker, 35 years old. He would grant the boroughs affected by the ULEZ to see whether he would be affected, whether they'd be affected by ULEZ. They're giving them a vote on that. But as well, Daniel Krisky is another one. A tech enterprise and former deputy head of policy, as well. Nick Rogers, another one to do it. Paul Scully is another one that is declared. Now that's an interesting. He's an MP as well. He's going to be temporarily stepping back from his minister role as well. In that one, that'd be very good. I mean, there's been talks about potentially others joining the race, but who knows?
We have Howard Cox from the Reform UK Party, also the founder of the Fair Fuel UK, a campaign group against hydrocarbon oil duty increases, has selected as the right-wing populist party candidate and promised to scrap ULEZ altogether, not just after Mr. Khan's explanation. The party was formerly the Brexit Party and is now, its president is Nigel Farage, former leader of UKIP.
Yeah, and Howard Cox is another one as well. There's been rumours about some of the other ones. Jeremy Corbyn is rumoured about him, although I don't think he'll take up the offer. He probably will stand to be in Islington North, to be fair, to be an independent. I wouldn't be surprised on that instance as well. But yeah, Howard Cox is the Reform one. He's perhaps to scrap the ULEZ, not altogether, in many views. He's a campaign group against hydrocarbon oil duty increases as well. So it's an interesting choice, nevertheless, on that one. But Jeremy Corbyn won't be one. He'll probably be the independent candidate for Islington North, quite frankly, on that instance. But yeah, a lot of contenders in the Conservatives. The two favourites so far, I think, in my view, are Samuel Kamsmoo and Paul Scully at the moment. Are probably the favourites at the moment for the Conservative nomination, but I think it would be to be took battle between them two. but Susan Hall is particularly popular as well. And it'd be interesting. It's a big long haul race at the moment. But I think if you're going to ask me who I think is going to get Conservative nomination, I think it'll be either Paul Scully or Samuel Kazmoo, in my view, on that one as well.
I think a lot of people will ask, is a serving member of the cabinet going to get a Mayor of London nomination? I mean, it seems very, very interesting. They might potentially give a government minister the Mayor of London nomination. I mean, that would be very interesting. Because obviously Paul Scully, as you remember, he's part of Rishi Sunak's cabinet, Minister for London, of course, and he also used to be a part of, I think, Boris's cabinet. He used to be a minister for many PM's cabinets for. But let me know, guys, what you make of the Mayor of London candidate list. Who would you like to see running off in the Mayor of London race? Comment down below what you have to say on that. Now, moving on now to some news that I think a lot of people are going to be wanting to listen to. We're going to talk now about the United States. Now, there has been a lot of news this week. Obviously, we've seen Donald Trump out rallying this week. We've also seen campaign rallies going up across the country for Trump. We've also seen Ron DeSantis banning a lot of things in Florida, such as obviously trans bans on like trans ideology and woke and all that kind of stuff, wokeness in Florida. So it is getting very interesting. Zach, what is your assessment at the moment of the current events happening in the United States, particularly between the two Republican candidates, potentially?
Yeah, I think as well, it looks like from what I've read in reports that Ron DeSantis is probably going to declare next week, according to the Wall Street Journal, who'll probably have some good sources inside of the campaign as well. Now, Ron DeSantis has been continuing his little tour, Florida, and sort of going around the world, basically, as well as he sort of gets ready to sort of declare a candidacy as well. Now, he's still behind Donald Trump by quite some margin. It was the vice versa earlier in the season, the year, and he was on good form. But I think he's made mistake after mistake in terms of policy, where to pick a fight for, how to try to out-Trump Trump. So he's in the situation at the moment where he's not in as good a position as he would have been because of several factors. First of all, the criminal indictment of Trump in New York has probably swayed all DeSantis, most of the DeSantis supporters who are really sympathetic of Trump, back to Trump again. And as well, DeSantis attacking Trump and in many ways as well, has sort of not directly, but indirectly, has sort of swayed the massive Trump base, which is just ginormous these days, that you can't actually get rid of them. But yeah, it's a bit of a problem on that front. But yeah, Trump is the favorite for the nomination, regardless, at the moment. I think because the situation is just working in his favor, really, quite frankly, as well. And yeah, so DeSantis probably will have probably a little bit of a boost next week when he announces a campaign, but it's going to result in one ugly fight, I think, as well. I mean, Trump and DeSantis used to be best buddies, have started coming to blows quite a bit. I mean, once you get out of Trump's line, it's on from there, quite frankly, as well. Once you fall out, you always fall out. It's just quite the typical Trump book, as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be an ugly primary, I think, as well, certainly in terms of the nomination. But yeah, I mean, we look at what's happened today. There's been implications about what's going on today. Disney, who's due to move 2,000 jobs to Florida, is not doing that anymore for whatever reason. And there was some sort of hotel that was supposed to open in Florida as well. That's not going to happen now. Interesting enough there. Now, this is a continuing feud between Disney and DeSantis over Disney's support for the so-called not non-support for the so-called "Don't Say Gay" bill, which bans teaching of LGBT rights and identities from anything from all years, basically in schools. Which, you know, I don't mind it if it's the older students that are doing it, but it's a bit harsh, I have to say, as well, from DeSantis' side. And, you know, Disney have been getting in this feud as well. DeSantis has tried to strip funding, put his own preferred people into the governance of Disney, so they do what he's told and all that sort of thing as well, battling woke culture and woke ideology or whatever flashpoints he wants to come up with. So yeah, DeSantis is trying to out-Trump Trump, and I don't think it's working so far. And I think it's going to show as we go through the primary for the next few months when he's going to announce that you can't out-Trump Trump, and the base of Trump is always going to stay with him.
Well, it is going to be very, very interesting to see how they get on. Please comment down below, guys, what you have to say about that. Now, moving on to the big question tonight. Now, the big question, we're going to be talking about criminals on mobile phones. Well, I wouldn't say these are technically criminals, but you can still get done for them. Now, we have seen, obviously, the police introduce tougher fines for people that drive with their mobile phones whilst driving. We know that, obviously, fines have gone up. It is illegal to use your mobile phone whilst driving. You do not know exactly what can happen. Now, it is very, very important to understand what I'm going to be saying, because this article from Warwickshire Police is explaining something very, very important for us to explain. Now, officers discover a worrying trend of people watching programs on mobile phones whilst driving. Between operation between the 20th of February and the 12th of March, they revealed that what officers believe is a worrying trend of people watching films and TVs on mobile phones while driving. 4 drivers were caught doing this whilst driving the country's motorways where speeds were considered to be higher. This included a car driver who was watching a film on his mobile phone whilst driving at 55 miles per hour on the motorway, and a van driver who was also watching a film on his mobile phone whilst driving. Both were caught during Op Tramline and were both reported. These results even more concerning when considered alongside a survey that was carried out, the RAC report on motoring 2020, that indicated the growing popularity of FaceTime, Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, Snapchat for video calls is posing a new present danger to UK roads, as well as 22 car drivers, 10 HGV drivers, and 10 van drivers included a driver of a school bus with school children on board caught using a mobile phone. All of these drivers could receive £200 and 6 points on their license, and if they're within the first 2 years of passing the test, they'll lose the license and have to retake the theory and practical test again, and some may even lose their jobs. 88% of drivers who received TORs were male, and 93% were over 25 years old. 50% of offences come on motorways with speed limits are up to 70 miles an hour there. Zach, what do you make to this worrying trend of the rising number of people using their mobile phones with driving? Do you think the police have to be more aware and tougher on this potentially?
Yeah, I mean, now obviously, as you're probably aware, if you have a physically holding your phone like this whilst you're driving and you're on it as well, and then you're not concentrating on what you're doing, that's illegal. Now, if you do it hands-free and put it down and everything like that, it's not you're not advised to do it, but it's not illegal at the same time, because, you know, for businesses wide, people use hands-free to do calls, important calls like delivery drivers, trucks, and everything like that as well. It's important. Otherwise, you are to stop at the side of the road every time. That's not really fair on the driver. But what we have seen a current trend as well, under the current, obviously, hands-free device rules at the moment, as outlined in that article, is that drivers are abusing the rules so they can watch films, watch the football, watch the television, watch BBC iPlayer, whatever they're thinking on whilst they are driving, which is pathetic, quite frankly. The only time you should really be using a hands-free device is when you're using Google Maps for sat navs or anything like that. When you're trying to put your music on, or and not for film watching, it is pathetic. Now, I personally, how I think this should be dealt with is that there should be a clear rule that limits you on what you can use a hands-free device for. So if it's a list putting on the radio and you got a hands-free radio on there which you can choose from, that should be all right. If you got a sat nav on there as well, then that should be absolutely fine. If you've got a map open, that should be fine. If you're trying to go into your contacts and contact someone, that should be fine. But if you're watching films or iPlayer or Channel 4 or you something like that, I mean, at least show the passenger. If you've got passenger back, get the passenger next to you, and whatever's interesting on there, show it to the passengers about. Send your phone to the passenger and put the passenger and show your phone to the passengers and all that sort of thing in the back. But the thing is, don't watch it whilst driving. To watch whatever drama is happening on the news or anything like that. Use it to do contacts, record anything on there. Use it as a dash cam if you need to. Put your maps on, contact your friend, anyone important, or use it as a radio device or a podcasting device, whatever. There should be tougher enforcement on that. Currently, as it's written so far, is that it's hands-free's all right. It's not recommended if you for anything else. Now, I think what they should do is ban it for certain things with some exceptions, like putting on the change your radio if you're reliant on a radio app as well. Checking car specifications or anything as well if needs to be. Checking your fuel, because sometimes, like on an app, some cars require you to use an app to check some details of things. As well. So any important information or contacting, family, friend or anything as well whilst your hands free should be fine. But using it to watch films or anything like that as well is just completely unnecessary. And honestly, there should be tough enforcement on that, because imagine watching a film whilst driving. It's embarrassing, it's distracting, it's annoying. And quite frankly, it's sad. Go and watch it later if you need to do it.
And do not forget as well that this can cause deaths. Unnecessary deaths. I'll tell you this, okay? I saw this back earlier this year. I watched a video of a lorry driver who was trying to change track on his phone, didn't see a car in front of him, and rammed into the car in front, and about 3 people were killed. A couple of young children died, and 1 person was seriously injured. That lorry driver committed a serious crime, caused death by dangerous driving. He was given pretty much a 15-year prison sentence. It is horrible. We do not want to see people being killed. That's why the police have got these fines in place. I'm going to play for you a little video now of an ITV News report which goes into why fewer drivers are being prosecuted behind the wheel using a mobile phone. Have a listen to this.
Catching drivers breaking the law is not difficult. In the 2 hours that we spent with West Mercia Road Policing Team, they handed out 4 tickets.
The van man is on his phone. Yeah.
The law is clear, and even if, like this driver, you claim you weren't actually making a call or sending a text, it's the use of a phone while driving that is illegal.
Here's my phone. You want to see? I was actually just flicking with it in my hand, right?
Okay.
So I know the difference.
You will receive a letter in the post, okay, which will tell you what will happen. I.e., you can either go to court over the matter or you'll get the points and the fine.
Another street, another ticket. The driver accepts her fleeting mistake and appreciates why she's on the wrong side of the law.
It's very, very dangerous. But, you can't go back and change things, so no.
I'm going to guess there's a lesson learned here.
Lesson learned. Never happen again.
Since tougher penalties for mobile phone use behind the wheel were introduced last year, enforcement has tailed off. More than 5,000 drivers received points in the first month of the new legislation. That fell to under 2,000 the following month, and just 1,387 in June. The majority of the penalties in the first 4 months were given to drivers from Greater London, Essex, and the West Midlands. Age 9, Imogen Cawthorey was hit by a car whose driver was on a phone. 17 years later, seizures and memory loss still affect her.
They know how dangerous it is. They know how many people are killed and how many lives are ruined, like myself. But it just makes me so angry.
Regularly, when we stop drivers for using their phone, they tend to say, "Can't you focus on proper police work?"
These officers see the devastation caused by drivers on phones. They aren't just catching those breaking the law, they're saving lives too. Rupert Evelyn, ITV News, Bromsgrove.
Yeah, thank you to that report there from ITV. I have been out on the road and I've seen these people do this. Please, 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 do not use your phone whilst driving. Obviously, this hands-free and you're like doing deliveries and that, please, obviously, I would advise stop off somewhere safe, personally, just because you won't get in trouble then. But if you're driving, please, if you're just driving a car, do not pick up your phone. Leave it. Just leave it. If you got a call, wait until you stop off. Because, as I said, you could be potentially saving someone's life there. It is really, really important that you do that. Right, now it's time for the sports news now. Only a couple of bits of sport to round up tonight. Obviously, next weekend is Indy 500 weekend. We're going to go over some of the football action now. And Southampton have officially been relegated from the Premier League last weekend after losing at Fulham. And we can confirm that to you right now. Brighton and Newcastle and Brighton played in tonight's match, which Newcastle won 4-1. They are now hopefully getting set on European football, closing in fact, on European football. We saw results from Brighton and Arsenal 3-0 at the weekend. Also included Brentford beating West Ham 2-0. And of course, Southampton losing against Fulham 2-0 there, as I mentioned. That was the confirmed relegation for Southampton. And Leicester City in trouble. Liverpool beating them 3-0. I don't know what Zach's going to think about that, but they are certainly really struggling in that one. Matches this weekend include Tottenham versus Brentford, Liverpool Villa, Wolves and Everton, Bournemouth Man United, and also on the Monday night football, Newcastle and Leicester as well. Zach, what do you make to the upcoming football matches, including the latest European results?
Yeah, let me go through some of the results that have just happened recently as well. Let me start off with, obviously, Southampton being relegated from the Premier League. It's the first time in 11 years this has happened for Southampton. I mean, they've been a key Premier League club for the last 11 years. So, yeah, it's a big loss, obviously, for the Premier League as well. But their season has been just so bad, to be honest. So it's been quite understandable they've been relegated due to the poor performances. The loss over the weekend sealed it for them. The 2-0 loss over Southampton, over Fulham, sealed their relegation. There's no way back mathematically now. They can't do any more. They're out of it. As well, we saw Leeds get 2-2, draw 2-0 against Newcastle as well. I'll come back to Newcastle a little bit later on, actually, because they play the game tonight as well. Yeah, as we mentioned, Southampton from a 2-0 loss Southampton to Fulham. Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, a 2-2 draw there. Crucial for in the context of Nottingham Forest this season. Extra point for them. It meant that they were 2 points above the relegation zone. As well, Aston Villa putting a blinder over Tottenham to win 2-1 there. Tottenham's European future hangs in the balance. If they don't at least get Conference League as well, they need to be winning matches like Aston Villa to be even having a chance as well. United win 2-0 against Wolves, decent result for Man United. Palace winning 2-0 against Bournemouth. We've had a good run, but not now. Lost there from that part as well. Man City 3-0 win over Everton. Crucial in the context I'm about to talk about as well. Brentford 2-0 victory over West Ham. the big shock of the weekend, Brighton winning 3-0 against Arsenal, all mathematically, all but guaranteeing that Arsenal are going to be runners-up this season. And then Leicester, well, yeah, I'm looking forward to this bit, actually losing 3-0 to Liverpool. Leicester in big trouble, 2 matches to go. It's not easy as well. Let me talk about the game tonight, by the way, because this is crucial in the context as well. Newcastle, Brighton, they're all European contenders this season. About big match tonight. Newcastle, 4-1 win over Brighton. They only need one more win now to guarantee Champions League football for next season, which will be the first time in many years if Newcastle win against Leicester on Monday Night Football coming up to get Champions League football. They need a win. If they win, they are guaranteed European Champions League football from next season. That is going to be crucial in the context as well. I imagine if they do get a point, they'll probably be guaranteed some European football regardless as well. But they are aiming to get into the Champions League. And a win against Leicester on Monday night will be all about it as well. Now, let me talk about the other implications as well. Because of Arsenal's loss and Man City's wins, there are implications this weekend. If Arsenal lose to Nottingham Forest on Saturday night, Manchester City automatically become the Premier League champions as well. If Arsenal draw on the Saturday as well, then mathematically all Man City would need is a draw at Chelsea to win. But if Arsenal win and then it all becomes down to Man City what they do on the Sunday as well. If Man City win on the Sunday, then they become Premier League champions. So it's mathematically simple. Man City need to win to become champions this weekend against Chelsea. That's on the Sunday. If Arsenal lose on Saturday, then it's automatically done. And then Arsenal have become runners up, and Man City becomes champions on the Saturday if Arsenal lose to Nottingham Forest. Though that's critical on the 5:30 match. There's also Tottenham v Brentford as well. Another critical match this weekend for Tottenham as well. Liverpool and Aston Villa. This will be a big one as well. I think for the 3 p.m. game, a big battle for European football on that front. Liverpool surely have to win to have some chance of getting to Champions League. They still could do so. Mathematically, their run has been stunning over the last 2 matches. After such a poor start to the season, they've been on a roll, winning. Amazing job by Liverpool to turn it around, quite frankly, as well. They're going against Unai Emery's Aston Villa as well. Another critical match as well, Wolves-Everton. Also at 3 o'clock on Saturday as well. That would be crucial in the context of relegation. Everton must win that to have a chance of staying up. Bournemouth, Manchester United as well. Another game for Manchester United to get into maintain their position in the top 4. Fulham and Palace is another one as well at 3. As I mentioned, Nottingham Forest at 5:30. And on the Sunday as well, it's West Ham at Leeds. That's at 1:30 rather than 2. Brighton Southampton is at 2. Then Man City Chelsea is at 4 o'clock as well. That could be the game that decides it. And then another massive game in the context of Champions League football and relegation is Newcastle Leicester as well on Monday Night Football. So much implication this weekend as well. It's the last 2 match weekends as well in the weekend, and there will be matches as well on the Wednesday with Brighton, Manchester City, and Thursday Man United v Chelsea next week as well. Let me talk about the European action that's just happened as well. Inter Milan beat AC Milan 1-0 on Tuesday to go through to the Champions League final. Massive result for Manchester City, 4-0 victory on Real Madrid, complete domination on the Wednesday for them. They go through to take on Inter Milan in the final in Turkey on June the 10th. And tonight, in the last set of results as well, Charlie, West Ham are through to the Europa League final after beating AZ as well on tonight. And I think they're playing, if I'm correct in saying as well, I believe they may be playing Ghent, but let me just double check that as well. Let me just get that off my phone just to double confirm who they are playing against as well. They're going to be playing, or actually the other match, they are going to play Basel or Florentino. Sorry, my apologies. But that's gone to extra time at the moment because they're 3-3 in aggregate at the moment. Florentino are 2-1 up, but 3-3 in aggregate. So it could well go to penalty shootout on there. So we do not know the final yet at the moment of the Europa Conference League. But West Ham are through to a European final for the first time in many years as well. If they win Europa Conference League, then they go to the Europa League as well for 2023-2024 as well. So big opportunity for West Ham up ahead on the 7th of June at 8 o'clock. We don't know who their opponents yet. It's either Basel or Florentino as well. That could happen. But yeah, big results for the British teams over the last few days for Man City and West Ham tonight. And yeah, very crucial results for their season as well.
Yeah, that's all the Premier League action. We'll see you for that again next week for all the latest roundup on that. Quick update as well from the motor racing. We didn't touch on the NASCAR last weekend, so we will touch on the Cup Series very quickly. We have the Goodyear 400. I haven't watched the race. I haven't been watching NASCAR that regularly, unfortunately. So I can't really explain much of the race. I did watch the race before. William Byron winning that one, with Kevin Harvick second, Chase Elliott third, Brad Keselowski fifth, and Bubba Wallace in fifth position there. Zach, what do you make to the latest NASCAR race at Darlington?
Yeah, it was a chaotic race, Charlie. It was pretty dramatic from start to finish. Ross Chastain getting towards with drivers, wrecks on the restart, big ones. It felt like super speedway racing it, quite frankly, at times. But yeah, William Byron was the lone survivor out of all what was happening to win the race that weekend as well. It was pretty dramatic, as you said, first to them, and then Kevin Harvick running behind him as well. Chase Elliott, good weekend for Hendrick Motorsport. First for William Byron. Chase Elliott as well. In third position, Brad Keselowski fourth, Bubba Wallace fifth. Harrison Burton, good race for him, sixth position. Kyle Busch seventh, Justin Haley Ryan Blaney eighth, Ryan Blaney ninth. Sorry, Justin Haley eighth, Ryan Blaney ninth, and Chris Buescher 10th. As well. This weekend is the All-Star race, Charlie, at North Wilkinson Speedway. A very vintage track to go to. It's not been used in many years now. There'll be Camping World Truck Series. The Craftsman Truck Series will be there as well this weekend as well. But let me give you the All-Star race. It's a non-points race, so this will have no effect on the season whatsoever. It just means you get £1 million cash prize if you win the race as well. It's going to be done over 200 and I believe laps of racing into 3 stages. There will be races. You'll be able to. Some drivers will be able to race their way into the All-Star race on the Sunday, with the All-Star Open, and then the All-Star race. I believe is at 8 p.m. Local time, which I believe 1 a.m. in the morning here as well. But yeah, massive, big weekend of fun racing in NASCAR, with the All-Star Open and the All-Star race as well. Lots of prize money up for grabs. It's going to be an all for one race as well, with entertainment, fun, hopefully a lot of action as well, and really looking forward to it as well. It's just going to be a bit of fun. It's all nothing's going to be won or lost on here. It's just for an extra bit of money. No championship implications at all. No playoff implications whatsoever. It's just going to be they're going to be the grandest prize in NASCAR, which is $1 million into your bank account, and a few bits of pride and celebrity status as well.
Yeah, that's all the latest there on the NASCAR. Quick update as well, Zach, on the Indy 500. A very interesting session, actually, because I did watch some of it earlier, and it looks pretty tightly contested out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching IndyCar practice as well. That's been continuing all week. Tomorrow is Fast Friday, so there'll be the final set of qualifying, the practice session before the qualifying, the Saturdays and the Sundays as well. So obviously there's a lot goes on, different runs, different techniques as well. It's still got ongoing as I speak as well, because the practice sessions are so long and everything like that as well. But yeah, it's really fun to follow IndyCar practice as well. It's really good and everything like that as well. I mean, from watching it, there's teams doing different setups, do different roles. as well. And it's really important, it's really important that the setup is considered and everything like that as well. To be fair, because obviously this is the longest race of the season. It's the fastest race of the season. It's the most exciting race of the season as well. And it's right this gets considered as well. Obviously, what happens as well. Yesterday's Tsuma Sato led practice on the 229 mile an hour. Chip Ganassi won 2 as well, ahead of Scott Dixon, AJ Foyt, Alex Palou, Scott McLaughlin, and Colton Hurt as well. A few interesting faces in the field as well. In terms of who's taking part, I believe the one that RC Ensign is the rookie for the Indy 500 this weekend. He took part in rookie orientation the other day, which he got his own session to himself as a part of rookie orientation as well, doing different runs. But there's 34 runners at the field so far. But like I said, Tsuma Sato was the one fastest yesterday as well in terms of time. Scott Dixon second, Santino Ferrucci third, Alex Palou fourth, Scott McLaughlin fifth, Colton has 6 as well. That's the top 6. But yeah, qualifying is on Saturday. 3 sets of runs as well that they're doing, and then the fastest go through to the fast 12, and then the fast 6 as well, the last chance qualifier as well on the Sunday to determine the grid for the Indy 500s, which is not this weekend, but next weekend. Qualifying is this weekend. It's actually the best 2 weeks of the year in terms of if you want to be an IndyCar fan, with so much practice, so much qualifying, so much expectation on the line. I'm looking forward to it as well. And hopefully, if it's not rained off, we've had a rained off F1 this weekend. Next weekend, we're supposed to be at Monaco for the most glamorous race of the season. Probably gone down a little bit all in terms of glamour because Las Vegas on the calendar this year, but the most crown jewel race in probably you can get in F1, the Monaco Grand Prix, and that forms part of the Triple Crown, as you know, winning the Indy 500 and Le Mans as well. It is a big race weekend. If we're hopeful to get some racing next weekend, if rain permitting, hopefully we get a bit of Monaco glamour next weekend as well.
Yeah, well, as if Formula E can do over 100 overtakes, how many overtakes can Formula One do? That's the question. That Formula One remains in the Monaco Grand Prix taking place next weekend. Also, the Indianapolis 500 as well. Last year's winner, of course, Marcus Ericsson winning. I think he's made an Indy 500 with Pato O'Ward finishing second for Aaron McLaren, and in third was the Chip Ganassi of Tony Kanaan, who's a big legend, I believe, at the Indy 500, a very famous NASCAR driver. Moving on now to Conversation Street. Tonight, obviously, we're going to be talking, as I said earlier, about Creamfields, heading to, of course, Highlands Park this weekend. Now, we've got a couple of my friends are going to be going there, as far as we know. They're going to be heading there. Of course, if you're watching tonight, I won't mention names, but if you're watching tonight, and if anyone's going that's watching tonight, this is the time now for the chance for you to listen to all the latest lineups as well. The lineup for Creamfields is going to be absolutely mega. We have for you a list of the performers that are taking place over the weekend. That's the bank holiday weekend. Next weekend, of course, the final weekend in May. We've got basically a list of people. We've got headlined, of course, by Becky Hill, Calvin Harris, David Guetta, I believe, is going to be there as well. Jamie Jones, Sam Devine, Joel Corey also performing as well.
Yeah.
Probably Sorry might be playing. I wonder, that will be interesting. Shy FX as well. Swedish House Mafia, TS7, all these artists. Zach, what do you make to the lineup for Creamfields this year?
Oh, certainly big lineup. I mean, there's so much going on, really, to be fair. It's just a great, lovely lineup. I mean, let's start with some of the headliners, really. There's so much headlines you can see. You can see Andy C, Becky Hill, Ben Hemsley, Calvin Harris, Chase and Status, Danny Howard, Example. It's a big lineup in terms of that front there as well. It's a mega lineup, actually. There are Eric Pridge, Example, Frankie Wah, George R. Harrison, Joel Curry, as you said, NF System, MK, Patrick Toppin, Shy Effect Salado, Tiesto, Wilkinson, TS7, Swedish Health Mafia. Oh boy, it is some lineup. You can't deny that as well. It is some lineup of that as well. The biggest DJ artists, the biggest dance artists, the biggest stars in the building. Oh, it's such a lovely lineup as well. Just so many good names on there. That massive hitters as well. I mean, on the Friday, I'm just going to talk about some of the lineups on the Friday. So on the Friday is Becky Hill, Exam, Paulo, Steppa, Salado, Tiesto. On that one, on the Saturday lineup will include likes of Annie Mac, Calvin Harris, Chasing Status, Jamie Jones, MK, TS7. On the Sunday to conclude the festival, we got the likes of Andy C, Ben Hemsley, Eric Prydz, Gorgon City, Joel Curry, LF System, Patrick Toppin, Wilkinson, Shy Effect, Sonny Fred, and Sweden House Mafia. Whew! What a lineup! What a rave it's going to be throughout the weekend, next weekend, and it's going to, everyone is going to certainly have a good old time.
Yeah, the baseline will drop this weekend. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure everyone. We've also got an IB for Rocks concert this weekend, I believe, as well. Craig David's also going to be headlining. I think an IB for Rocks concert coming up. That might have been last, I'm not sure, but if you can obviously go and check out Craig David's concert tours on his website. You can also go and check out all the latest music events. That, of course, is Creamfield South taking place this weekend, next weekend, on the bank holiday weekend in May. Just to confirm that as well. Now it's time to review the papers. It's press preview time now, where we're reviewing all the latest newspapers. As you guys know, we have had a lot more of them now released. Let's go into this right now. So, the Daily Express goes for confident Rishi, I'll be your PM for years. The Prime Minister pledges that he will serve government for a long time to come. Okay. That is the Prime Minister there, Rishi Sunak. The Daily Telegraph goes for net zero drive will add £120 to your energy bills. We've also seen that there's been an increase in water bills as well. Cost of living certainly hitting many people's finances when it comes to heating their own homes. The Daily Telegraph also goes with the same headline there. The Daily Telegraph has two front pages. It's really interesting. The Daily Star goes, why oh why? Undercracker scale 45%, like City Good. And also Ant and Dec have announced that after 20 years Saturday night takeaway next year, they'll be taking a break. The Guardian goes, fresh sanctions against Russia as the Prime Minister seeks to rally support for Kiev. That comes after the latest Russian missile strikes hit the Ukrainian capital, causing lots of damage. The Daily Mirror goes for Mummy, I'm dying. Another little boy becomes the latest victim of a country's dangerous dog epidemic. As well, iWeekend, or the I front page goes for UK new rules needed to tame AI. The Independent goes maternity scandal inquiry slams NHS for exhaustion of Black and Asian victims. Investigation triggered by the Independent consults 250 white families, but only 20 of them are from ethnic minorities. The Metro goes for £10 billion dirty trick. Your foot bills with the sewage spills. That's that one. And Financial Times goes for BT plans to cull 55,000 jobs this decade in the most radical cuts since privatisation. As well, 42% of the workforce could be targeted. Zach, what do you make to the latest front pages that have just come out?
Yeah, pretty peculiar front set of pages, actually. I'm going to talk a few of them. First of all...
we seem to have lost Zach at the moment.
Can you hear me?
Just bear with us. Zach is on... Sorry, we've got Zach. I'm sorry, we've had a bit of technical issues there. We've got Zach back on now.
Am I here?
Hello, Zach, can we hear you?
Hello.
We've finally got Zach back now after some little technical glitches there. Zach, I'm sure that you've gone through, heard the papers, and let's crack on with it now.
Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, let's start with the Daily Express, actually. peculiar headline. Confident Rishi will be PM for years. Determined Rishi Sunak yesterday backed himself to win the next election. He predicts to remain PM with a Tory majority in the next election. I have to say, that would be a bit of a surprise if it does happen. Quite frankly, because I don't know whether it will happen or not. At the moment, Labour are the favourites for the next election with a majority at the moment, potentially. Some pollers say they're not quite yet. Some say they are. But confident Rishi will be PM for years. Yeah, I'm not sure, mate. You'll probably the what we say the post minister through to 2024, maybe not the prime minister, based on the latest polls as well. I mean, we didn't Boris Johnson say that we would take another two terms in government for him, and then we know what history came across to that one as well. We know what the end of the day was, and yeah, don't get your hopes up, Rishi. As well, the Daily Telegraph: net zero drive will add £120 to the energy bills. Household energy bills are expected to rise by nearly £120 a year to fund the development of hydrogen and gas under the government's net zero plans. Number 10 is back in the procedure of a low carbon hydrogen scheme expected to cost $3.5 billion a year between 2030 and 2040. As well. Well, I mean, what are they supposed to use? More oil and gas? I mean, you know, the Telegraph seems to be stuck behind the times a little bit. On that one, which is a bit strange. I mean, look, I know they have an agenda against net zero for whatever reason, and they're conservative values on that one, but goodness me. I certainly think that hydrogen, you know, low energy net zero is the way forward. I mean, yeah, okay, got to do it cost effectively, but I mean, at the end of the day, you'll probably find by 2030 our energy bills will probably be cheaper if net zero is received. So yeah, I think it's bizarre, that one, quite frankly. You know, on that front page. Let's go to the Daily Star one, because they're doing their little comical headline this week. There's a picture of Erling Haaland with, I think it's not definitely well. Is that Noel Gallagher? I think it is Noel Gallagher he's with as well on that photo. And they've gone for the start photo. Why oh why? Undercracker sales up 45%. Inspired by Erling Haaland. That's apparently how Erling Haaland wears his pants. As well. Sales of Y fronts like your granddad used to wear, you are rocketing as blokes try and fail to emulate Norse footy god Erling Haaland. I will not show you my example of that on this program whatsoever, because I don't think it'd be probably the best idea to do that.
Maybe ask Phil and Holly that question given this morning feud.
Well, this morning's going a bit pants, isn't it, at the moment, given the fact that Phil and Holly, with all the rumours of a feud and everything like that, which they've denied, and they've still been on the air this week. First, they said vests were cool. Now Erling Haaland's made Y fronts trendy again. The Daily Star has also gone for very sexualised themes of Bozo, I will spank Macron. That was something related, by the way, to the context of this. This is related to Guto Harry's little series, where apparently Boris Johnson had a few things to say about Macron, according to his former communications director, Guto Harry. And as you mentioned, Charlie, as well, Anton Deck today have announced that next season, obviously, Saturday Night Takeaway will air for the 20th series. But after that, it's going to take a few years off. It's going to be on a little bit of a sabbatical. Now, Anton Deck will do their other shows as usual, but next year's Saturday Night Takeaway will be the last for a little bit. It hasn't been axed fully. By the way that Anton Deck worded it, it will probably eventually come back in the future, but it won't come back for now for a few years after next year. So the 20th series is going to be the last for a little bit. And then they're going to take obviously take a few years off as well on that front. The Guardian goes for fresh sanctions against Russia in PM6 to raise support for Kyiv. As well, the UK unveiled a swath of new sanctions against Russia as well. And in the fight against obviously getting the sanctions ready as well. and that front arrived against Russia as Rishi Sunak arrived at G7 summit in Japan with a self-declared
Didn't we
mission
send
to
him
push
new
India into showing
missiles?
greater. Yeah, I mean, so first of all, the UK have definitely provided support. Because they these storm missiles that they gave last week as well, which has had an effect actually, and is actually Ukraine's already using as well, which is really important. He's also going to announce 86 more sanctions on individuals as well, taking the total sanctions list to 1,500. That's a lot of sanctions for Russia as they continue to be a pariah on the world stage as well, and they continue to be attacking Kyiv and other European cities as well in their fight against the war on that front as well. So yeah, important that G7 are showing a lot of unity in front of their battle against Russia as well. And I have to say, the unity has been shown this week by Germany announcing measures such new aids as well, £3 billion aid package as well. And the UK's announced an aid package, the US announced an aid package, lots of aids going into Ukraine at the moment as well. Important in that context as well, that they managed to, get the necessary aid and rights there as well to Ukraine, which continues to be important. But good to see G7 united on that front as well, which is really important. The Mirror goes for "Mummy, Am I Dying?" and this is a very sad story of dangerous dogs and the impact it has had as well. Another day, another family's lives are torn apart after a horrific dog attack. Vic Dilko 6 was lucky to escape with his life when a Staffel his parents bought off online went berserk and ripped his scalp off as well. Now, this is obviously going to continue their campaign to legislate against these dangerous dogs. I have to say, and they're not. It's quite sad to see kids being used by attacks by dogs. I mean, dogs are supposed to be lovely little things, and then you get these dangerous dogs as well, which I don't think it's the fault of the parents because they don't realise what their potential is at first, and then when you have one incident, it's just a sad effect, and it turns the dog really dangerous as well. And yeah, it just has a whole effect on the family. The eye goes for UK wars, new rules needed to tame AI. And I should point out in the context of this as well, Charlie. I want to mention this in the context of what BT have announced today. 55,000 job losses across the company. Some of it to blaming directly AI revelation as well. Use of robots and the fact that humans will not be needed for some of the jobs needed in the future to connect to grow their fiber optic network as well. But like in the context as well, the government wants to push regulations to protect humans against potential dangers of artificial intelligence. As well, the UK is now focused on threats posed by AI as well as the opportunities of it. But as you know, AI is becoming more and more clever. The technology is evolving on that front. And technology has also become dangerous. It can also do other things as well that it may not want us to do. So it's important to balance to advance technology when needed to be, but when it's posing a risk, it should be regulated. And I think it's absolutely the right approach that needs to be done there as well. The Independent goes for maternity scandal inquiry slams NHS for exclusion of Black and Asian victims. An investigation by the Independent. It has uncovered poor care over more than a decade as well into maternity failures at NHS Trust. There's a dozen baby dead or brain damage is wholly sufficient because only a fraction of Black and Asian women have come forward. This is a disproportionate effect as well. The senior midwife who also led through to failures as well suggests the health service must do more to learn from the scandal. Fewer than 20 families from Black and Asian communities currently involved in the inquiry compared with the more than 250 white families. So this just proves the problem that's going on, especially with the fact that those from a minority background being left out, and they've been the ones that have been poorly affected by this. It's a terrible terrible precedent to set, and it's clearly a horribly discriminative situation for them that they have been, affected by this care that has been inadequate, unnecessary, and then the fact that they can't even go forward as well is pretty shocking. And 2 more papers to do as well, Charlie. £10 billion dirty trick. You'll foot the bills for sewage spills. Now, obviously, this is the fact that this is around the fact that water companies continue to be disgracing customers by splunging sewage into our beautiful rivers and seas as well. They have apologised for it, for 300 sewage dumps in rivers and on beaches, then told customers to pick up an extra additional £10 billion bill to actually fix these sewages. And I have to say, I think it's a disgrace, Charlie. It's a complete and utter disgrace that our rivers are being piled with crap and the sewage companies will not do anything about it. Quite frankly, there should be criminal charges to them for ruining our waters, making us drink dirty waters, giving us dirty sewages as well. I think it's disgusting and shameful on these bosses who are failed to be held in account for these shameful errors, and for especially the person that looks bad at this is not only them, but Therese Coffey, who does very little to do anything about this. Is quite a pretty shameful act as well by them on that front. And finishing off for the Financial Times, obviously they're leaving the fact that BT plans to cut 55,000 jobs. 42% of the workforce will be targeted, with AI taking some roles. Full 5 rollout will be ending, and there's been some mixed annual results as well, with some profits, some losses as well from BT as well. 40%, 2% of the work for 55,000 roles because of AI technology to replace some customer services as well. It's a massive cost-cutting effort by them as well. This comes after Vodafone announced plans to axe 11,000 jobs over next year to boost its flagging performance as well. So a lot of cost-cutting and job losses in the industry, in the tech comms industry, like Vodafone and BT as well. And I feel sorry for all the workers who will be phased out over time. It's not going to be great for them as well. But yeah, clearly technology is forcing humans out of roles and forcing those with jobs to have their jobs on the line, unfortunately, as well. So yeah, that is the papers for Friday the 19th of May, as well, ending on that, the Technicom industry facing a difficult time at the moment.
That is all the newspapers reviewed, and we'll be back next week for another edition of the Tonight Show podcast. In the meantime, guys, please stay safe out there, especially if you're in Italy, and we really hope that Formula One will be back for the Monaco Grand Prix next week as well. Also, motor racing action with the British Touring Car Championship this weekend as well at Snetterton, and also political news coming out as well. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Take care. And this is the Tonight Show podcast. I've been your host, Charlie, and my co-host, Zach Chambers. Thank you for both of us for presenting the show. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Take care and good night.